Welcome to the shadows. Today we peel back the thin veil of normalcy to explore the tales that usually stay hidden in the deepest threads of the internet. These aren't your typical campfire stories. These are the documented experiences of people who realized far too late that they were never truly alone. Before we begin, find a quiet place, dim the lights, and prepare yourself for a journey into the unsettling. We have curated 3 stories that will change the way you look at your own home. Let the darkness take hold as we begin Volume 1 of Disturbing Reddit Stories. Listen closely, for the silence often speaks the loudest. Our first story comes from a user who lived in a secluded apartment on the edge of town. For weeks, they felt a prickling sensation on the back of their neck, that distinct feeling of eyes boring into your skin from a distance. It started with small things. A chair moved a few inches, a window left unlocked that they swore they had latched shut. They lived on the 3rd floor, making the idea of an intruder seem impossible. But as the sun dipped below the horizon one Tuesday night, the subtle clues turned into a terrifying reality. The silence of the apartment was broken by a sound that shouldn't have been there. The sound of heavy, rhythmic breathing, coming from inside the bedroom closet. Frozen in place, the narrator watched the closet door. It didn't move at first, but the breathing continued, wet, labored, and unnervingly close. They reached for their phone, their fingers trembling so violently they almost dropped it. Just as they were about to dial for help, a thin, pale finger slid out from the gap in the closet door. It was followed by another, and then a hand, gray and malnourished. The door creaked open just an inch more, revealing a single, unblinking eye staring out from the darkness. There was no malice in the eye, only a hollow, starving intensity that felt worse than any glare. The narrator didn't scream. Their voice had completely vanished into the cold air of the room. The figure didn't jump out. It simply watched. The narrator backed away, one slow step at a time, until they reached the front door. They didn't grab their keys. They didn't grab a coat. They just ran. They spent the night in a well-lit 24-hour diner, staring at the door every time a customer walked in. When the police finally arrived at the apartment the next morning, the closet was empty, but they found something far more disturbing. Inside the closet, hidden behind the hanging clothes, were dozens of Polaroid photos. All of them were of the narrator, sleeping, eating, even showering. The person had been living in that closet for months, documenting every private second of the narrator's life, without ever being caught. The second story takes us deep into the wilderness of northern Maine. An avid hiker and hunter had set up several trail cameras to track deer movement for the upcoming season. For the first 2 weeks, the SD cards showed nothing but the local wildlife, bucks, foxes, and the occasional black bear. But on the 3rd week, the footage took a turn for the bizarre. It started at 3:14 a.m. The camera, triggered by motion, captured a sequence of photos that defied logic. There was a man, completely naked despite the freezing temperatures, standing perfectly still in the middle of a dense thicket. He wasn't looking at the camera. He was looking straight up at the sky, his mouth hanging wide open in a silent scream. The hiker scrolled through the images, his heart hammering against his ribs. Each subsequent photo showed the man getting closer to the camera. He wasn't walking. He seemed to be teleporting, or moving with unnatural speed between the camera's trigger intervals. In one frame, he was 30 feet away. In the next, he was 10 feet away. In the final photo of that sequence, the man's face was inches from the lens. His skin looked like parchment stretched over a skull, and his eyes were nothing but dark pits. But the most terrifying part was the timestamp. This had happened only 2 hours ago, at a location just a mile away from where the hiker was currently sitting in his isolated cabin. Panic set in. The hiker locked the cabin door and grabbed his rifle, but the thin wooden walls offered little comfort. He heard a soft thud on the roof, followed by the sound of something dragging itself across the shingles. It sounded heavy, yet moved with a fluid, serpentine grace. Then came the scratching. It wasn't at the door, but at the chimney. The hiker aimed his weapon at the fireplace, his breath coming in short, jagged basts. The scratching stopped abruptly, and a voice, low, gravelly, and sounding like two stones grinding together, whispered his name from the darkness of the flue. He didn't stay to find out what happened next. He threw himself out the back window and ran toward his truck, never looking back. Our final story involves an old Victorian house inherited by a young couple. It was a dream come true. High ceilings, original hardwood, and a price tag that seemed too good to be true. They spent the first few months renovating, stripping away layers of old wallpaper and grime. One afternoon, while working in the attic, the husband noticed a section of the floorboards that sounded hollow. Curious, he pried them up, expecting to find old pipes or perhaps hidden insulation. Instead, he found a narrow crawl space that ran the entire length of the house. It was filled with old journals, hundreds of them, all written in a frantic, illegible script that seemed to spiral into madness as the dates progressed. As they read through the journals, a pattern emerged. The previous owner hadn't been living alone, though the record said he was a hermit. He wrote extensively about the tenant in the walls, a presence that he claimed fed on his thoughts and movements. The entries became more disturbing. "It likes the way I sleep," one read. "It says my blood tastes like copper, and copper tastes like home." The couple laughed it off as the ramblings of a sick man, until they found the hidden door behind the master bedroom closet. It was a tiny, carpeted room, barely large enough for a person to lie down. Inside was a fresh pillow, a half-eaten sandwich, and a small handheld mirror positioned to see directly into their bed. That night, they didn't sleep. They sat in the living room with all the lights on, waiting for the sun. Around 2 a.m., they heard it, a soft, rhythmic tapping coming from inside the walls of the living room. It followed them. If they moved to the kitchen, the tapping moved to the kitchen walls. If they went to the foyer, the tapping was there too. It was as if something was mimicking their every footstep from within the very structure of the house. They realized then that the tenant wasn't gone. It hadn't left with the previous owner. It had simply been waiting for new company, watching them from the shadows of the crawl space, learning their habits, and waiting for the perfect moment to introduce itself. They called the police, but by the time the authorities arrived, the tapping had stopped. An officer climbed into the crawl space and found it empty, save for one new item that hadn't been there when the husband first checked. It was a small, crudely carved wooden doll sitting on the husband's pillow in the master bedroom. The doll was dressed in a scrap of fabric that matched the wife's favorite nightgown. The couple sold the house at a massive loss and moved halfway across the country. To this day, the husband swears he can still hear that rhythmic tapping whenever the house gets too quiet, a constant reminder that some things, once they find you, never truly let go. The world is a much stranger place than we often care to admit. These stories serve as a grim reminder that the safety of our homes is often just an illusion, a fragile barrier against the darkness that waits outside, or sometimes inside. Whether it's a stranger in your closet, a figure in the woods, or a presence in your walls, the truth is often more terrifying than fiction. We hope these accounts have given you something to think about the next time you hear a floorboard creak or a shadow move in the corner of your eye. These are the realities of the modern world, documented by those brave enough to share their trauma with the rest of us. If you enjoyed these stories and want to hear more from the darker side of Reddit, please show your support. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates. We have many more volumes planned, each one diving deeper into the mysteries and horrors that lurk just out of sight. Share your own disturbing experiences in the comments below. We might even feature your story in a future episode. Until next time, keep your doors locked, your lights on, and try to get some sleep. The darkness is always watching, but for now, you are safe with us. Thank you for watching. and stay vigilant.